A chance to match your wits with Spokane County's best and brightest civics and history high school students. It's Civics Bowl 2024. We're back for our third season. 10 area high school teams will go head-to-head, but only one will bring home the trophy.
Civics Bowl is made possible by Eastern Washington University, the Avista Foundation, the League of Women Voters of the Spokane area and of Washington, and by viewers like you.
Hello, the teams are ready and so are we. I'm your host and President and General Manager of KSPS, and tonight, 4 rounds of tough questions and a chance for you to see if you can compete with these students. Now here's a look at the bracket. In our single elimination tournament, Ridgeline made it past Central Valley and is ready now for the community school. Let's meet each team first. Up first, the community school.
I'm Eden. My name is Sage.
My name is Avery.
I'm Maxine.
And we want to also welcome the community school's alternate, Lydia Schlazer, as well as coaches David Goldblum and David Egley. And now, the team from Ridgeline.
Hi, I'm Jeshen.
I'm Parker.
I'm Xander.
And I'm Paige.
And in the audience, we have Ridgeline's alternate Lucas Bulkley and their coaches Brittany Bergman and Suzanne Smith. Up first, the toss-up round. We provided teams with rules, and there's a copy for those of you watching at home online at KSPS. In a nutshell, I'll ask a toss-up question to all players. Only after I finish can a student buzz in with an answer. The right answer means the winning team gets a bonus question. You're encouraged to collaborate with your teammates only on the bonus questions. Teams, are you ready? Let's go. What is the name of the federal law that made registration easier for all states except North Dakota?
The Motor Voter Act.
That is correct, and here's your bonus. How does the Motor Voter Act make voter registration easier?
It diminishes the waiting period.
That is incorrect. It allows eligible citizens to register when they apply to renew a driver's license. Toss up both teams. What is the name of the regulatory commission that sets and enforces rules for people and companies involved in stock trades? Paige.
The SEC.
That is correct. And here's your bonus from EWU Women's Basketball Associate Head Coach Skip Gleason.
What council is made up of 3 of the country's leading economists chosen by the president with the Senate's consent?
Economic Advisory Committee.
Yeah, the Economic Advisory Committee.
That is correct. Does our government function as a direct democracy or an indirect democracy? Paige?
An indirect democracy.
That is correct, and here's your bonus. What is the name given to a group of people who seek to control government by winning elections and holding public office?
Political party?
That is correct, and here's your toss-up. The Federalists and the Anti-Federalists formed the first 2 U.S. political parties. Who led the Federalists? Xander?
Alexander Hamilton.
That is correct, and here's your bonus. Who led the Anti-Federalists? Paige?
Thomas Jefferson.
Correct. Here's your toss-up. What question did the formation of the Electoral College resolve? Paige?
How the president would be elected.
That is correct, and here is your bonus. Several alternatives to the current Electoral College process for electing a president have been suggested. Name one.
Popular vote. Popular vote.
That is correct. And here's your toss-up, both teams. The largest share of campaign dollars goes toward the election for which office? Parker?
President.
That is correct, and here's your bonus. What is the largest item in most campaign budgets today, even at the local level?
Marketing. Marketing.
Television ads. Television ads. And here's your toss-up, both teams. What is the name given to powers that the Constitution does not grant to the national government and does not deny to the states?
Reserve powers.
That is correct. And here's your bonus. Does the Constitution require the Speaker of the House be a member of the U.S. House of Representatives?
It does not.
That is correct. Here's your toss-up, both teams. The 4 pages of the Constitution are on a permanent display at the National Archives, but there's a 5th page. What is that 5th page? It is the letter of transmittal of the newly written Constitution to Congress that existed under the Articles of Confederation. And your next toss-up. In 1937, President Franklin Roosevelt wanted Congress to change the number of justices on the Supreme Court. What did he want that number set at? Paige.
13.
15. Battles over Supreme Court justices are nothing new. The 10th President, John Tyler, nominated 9 justices. How many were confirmed?
5.
1. And that wraps up that first category. We'll be back in a moment to get to know the players.
Last week, we asked whether founders George Read, Roger Sherman, Rufus King, or Robert Morris signed both the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. Turns out only 6 men signed both, and Rufus King was not one of them.
Now we'd like to take a moment to get to know our players and their schools a little bit better. We've asked each school to produce a video for Civics Bowl. Here's the community schools.
This is TCS.
These are really cool. I love them. This school is different because we have integrated projects and we learn practical uses for the different subjects. And all the people here are so unique and awesome.
Here on Monroe, we're next to basically everything.
At TCS, we create all kinds of stuff, like this video.
Oh yeah, so come down to TCS now. Right now.
Good luck, TCS! That was sick. Yep.
Well done. And now we get to hear from each of you. Tell us your class year and your favorite hobby, starting with Eden.
I am a sophomore and I love doing theater.
I'm a senior and I'm really interested in visual art.
I'm a senior and I love music.
I'm a junior and I really like photography.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And now here's an inside peek at Ridgeline.
We are Ridgeline High School here in Liberty Lake, Washington, home of the Falcons.
Here at Ridgeline, we help every student grow big, belong, inspire, and grow.
Our Falcons soar high, achieving excellence across academics, arts, and athletics. These trophies aren't just medal and ribbon, they're a testament to our relentless spirit and dedication.
Here at Ridgeline, it's not just about the academics or the athletics. It's about the community we build, the friendships we make, and the leaders that we become.
Talents up, kick off!
Thank you, Team Ridgeline. And same questions. Tell us your class year and your favorite hobby. Jashin.
I'm a senior and I enjoy playing basketball.
I'm a senior as well, and I like doing music.
I'm a senior and I like playing tennis.
I'm also a senior and I like hiking.
Thank you very much, teams. It's been great to have you here, and we're looking forward to getting more and more from you as we go to the head-to-head round, which is coming up next. But first, a thank you to the Spokane branch of the League of Women Voters. Their volunteers prepared hundreds of questions for this competition. We could not do this without them. Thank you for your hard work. And we'll see you in the head-to-head round right after this. Now it's time for the head-to-head round. Again, we've got the rules online so you can follow along. Here's a quick look at them. You still need to wait until I finish asking the question before you buzz in. Each right answer is worth 10 points, and players cannot work together to find the answer. Let's remind everyone of the score. Ridgeline 120, the community school 0. Are you ready? Let's go. What is the term for voters who have no political affiliation?
Independent.
That is correct. Next. Why is the media sometimes called the fourth branch of government?
Because they can influence policy decisions.
That is correct. What is the echo chamber phenomenon in listening to the news?
if you keep hearing the same things over and over, you're never going to get an outside perspective.
That is correct. One man served both as the Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court and as president. Name that man.
Taft.
That is correct. What is the name of the political ideology that elevates nationalism, seeks military might, opposes democratic ideals, and advocates rule by a dictator or small group of elites? Fascism. Next. Name 2 fascist countries that fought in World War II.
Germany and Italy.
That is correct. Does the U.S. Constitution set age, residence, or citizenship requirements for federal judges?
No.
That is correct. Political socialization is how a person's positions on different issues are developed. Name 2 agents that shape one's political socialization.
Events that happen while they're growing up and their media.
That is correct. Electioneering occurs when interest groups do what through political action groups?
Lobbying.
That is correct. Who serves as the spokesperson for the minority parties in the House and Senate?
The minority leader.
And?
I don't know. No answer.
Yeah, it's the House and the Senate. Who was the first person to be fully vested as a member of the U.S. Supreme Court?
John Marshall.
Is this incorrect?
No answer.
James Wilson. James Wilson. And here's your last head-to-head. Whose arrest led to the 1955-56 Montgomery bus boycott?
Rosa Parks.
That is correct. And that wraps it up. Another great round, teams. Here's a quick check of the score. Ridgeline 200, Community School 10. Don't go anywhere. Up next, these students face off in the category round.
Here's important news for high school seniors. We all know the legal age to vote is 18. But in Washington state, 17-year-olds can vote in the August primary as long as they'll turn 18 before the November general election. High school seniors, that means if you're 18 or will turn 18 before the November election, it's time to register to vote. Only registered voters receive a ballot. To learn more, visit votewa.gov.
Welcome back. In just a few minutes, we'll have a chance for folks at home to answer a civics question for some KSPS bling. But before that, it's time for the category round. In this round, teams will answer questions from the following categories: race to the White House, expressed powers, the cabinet, the First Continental Congress, and the First Amendment. Teams will alternate choosing a category, but you can't jump ahead from a 10-point question to one of higher value. And this time, points will be deducted for wrong answers. Again, these rules are online, and the student teams received them last fall. They can decline to answer a question. That's a way to make sure you don't lose points, and it forces the other team to answer. And you can toss the question to the other team. They have to answer, but a team can only toss 3 times. Okay, teams, let's go. Community School.
The First Amendment.
First Amendment it is, for 10 points. What is the Establishment Clause in the First Amendment? The prohibition on government to establish a national religion. Ridgeline.
Take the First Amendment.
First Amendment for 15 points. This is a multiple choice question. The First Amendment does not protect certain types of low-value speech, which includes defamation, true threats, fighting words, all of the above.
All of the above.
That is correct. Community School.
The Cabinet.
The Cabinet for 10. What is the name of the most recently created executive department?
Decline.
Decline it is. That was Homeland Security. Ridgeline.
First Amendment.
First Amendment for 20 points. What is symbolic speech?
decline that.
Okay, decline it is. The answers for symbolic speech are communicating ideas by conduct, symbols, apparel, and other nonverbal means. Community school.
Express powers.
Expressed powers for 10. Which of the three types of delegated powers, expressed powers, implied powers, or inherent powers, results from the fact that the national government is a sovereign state in the world community?
Implied powers.
That is incorrect. Inherent powers. Ridgeline.
The First Amendment for 25.
First Amendment for 25. In 1968, Justice Abe Fortas wrote, "The state has no legitimate interest in protecting any or all religions from views distasteful to them." To what was he referring?
Or decline.
Decline it is. Teaching evolution in public schools. Community school.
First Amendment.
First Amendment 430, wrapping up the category. Over the years, the Supreme Court has ruled that laws may be passed that limit people's rights to religious freedom. List 2 ways in which courts have restricted religious freedoms.
Toss.
Toss to Ridgeline. Time's up. The answer is laws requiring vaccinations for public health, laws prohibiting use of poisonous snakes in religious rituals, laws closing businesses on Sundays, laws requiring religious groups to have permits to hold parades on public streets, and court cases upholding the military's right to draft people who object to military service on religious grounds.
We'll do Race to the White House for 10.
Race to the White House for 10. The party's call for the convention tells each state's party representatives when and where the convention will be held, along with what other very important piece of information concerning their state delegations.
Who will be there?
That is incorrect. How many delegates the state may send to the convention? Community school.
The First Continental Congress.
First Continental Congress for 10. In 1774, 12 of the 13 colonies met in the First Continental Congress. What 2 things did they accomplish?
Decline.
Decline it is. They agreed to urge citizens to boycott British goods to form militias. Ridgeline.
I would do express powers for 15.
Express powers for 15. Why does the U.S. Constitution have the Bill of Rights?
Both to protect the rights of the people and to get the anti-federalists to agree to sign the Constitution.
That is correct. Community school.
Express powers.
Express powers for 20. Implied powers are drawn from the existence of expressed powers in the Constitution. What clause of the Constitution shows that the drafters contemplated these implied powers?
Decline.
The final clause of Article 1, Section 8, or the necessary and proper clause. Ridgeline.
Do express powers for 25.
While some powers are held concurrently by the state and federal government, which amendment details powers reserved specifically for the states?
The 10th Amendment.
That is correct.
Express powers for 30.
And this wraps up this category. When is the last time the U.S. Congress approved its last formal declaration of war?
Toss.
Toss to Ridgeline.
1969.
That is incorrect. The last formal declaration of war from the U.S. Congress happened during World War II. And that wraps up the category. Well done, everybody. Only one round remains, the lightning round. It's coming up next.
We've got a new question of the week for you. In the line of succession for the President of the United States, what position is third in line and which one is last? Do you know the answer? Scan this QR code or head to kSPS.org/civicsbowl to submit your answer. You'll be entered in a drawing to win a prize. The deadline to enter is Monday at noon. We'll notify the winner and give the right answer next week on Civics Bowl.
We're just one round away from learning who will be next to advance in the Civics Bowl tournament this season. Now in the lightning round, we'll put 90 seconds on the clock. The idea is to answer as many of these 20-point questions as you can in that time. No conferring. Get ready to go. Teams, are you ready? And here we go. According to Thomas Hobbes, the idea that people agree to the type of governmental system under which they live is called what? Xander.
Popular sovereignty.
That is incorrect. Social contract. The First Amendment states Congress shall make no law prohibiting the free exercise of religion. Is this an example of a negative right or a positive right? Paige.
Negative right.
That is correct. Which elected county official is the chief law enforcement officer in the county? Parker.
Sheriff.
That is correct. How many members of the U.S. Senate have been censured since 1789? Paige.
3.
Incorrect. 9. Who was the first female justice of the Supreme Court? Paige.
Sandra Day O'Connor.
Correct. What does the inscription on the front of the Supreme Court building in Washington, D.C. say? Equal justice under law. Tax bills must originate in which chamber of commerce? Paige.
The House.
That is correct. True or false? When all Americans turn 18 years old, they are required to register for the draft through the Selective Service System. Paige.
False.
That is correct. True or false? The Supreme Court has no involvement in foreign diplomacy.
True.
That is false. What is the name of the warning given by police to an arrested person informing them they have the right to remain silent? Parker.
The Miranda rights.
That is correct. Who is the most recognized leader of the civil rights movement? Paige.
Martin Luther King Jr.
Correct. True or false? Citizens of the United States elect more people to public office than the voters of any other country on the planet. Xander.
True.
That is correct, and that wraps up the lightning round. Good job, everybody. And that means that Ridgeline will be joining us for the next round. Congratulations, all the teams. This has been great. It's been great having you here, and we look forward to next week. We hope you enjoyed playing along from home. See you next week. I'm going to go say hello to our guests. See you next week.
Well done. Nice meeting you. Well done.
Civics Bowl is made possible by Eastern Washington University, the Avista Foundation, the League of Women Voters of the Spokane area and of Washington, and by viewers like you. If you are a regional school interested in taking part in Civics Bowl next year, we want to know. Go to ksps.org/civicsbowl to fill out our online contact form.